Okay, we're here with Matt Wood of Free Press, and we're in the FCC hearing for net neutrality. What can you tell us about your expectations?
Well, it's the big day. It's not the end of a process, though. They're just starting this process. They'll be asking about what rules they should adopt. Really, today they're just proposing them. We've thought all along that the rules the chairman wants to propose are not going to be good enough to do the job, which is why we've been protesting and so many people here in D.C. and around the country protesting them. And we hear that he's open to having that discussion about making the rules better. We just need to keep pushing to make sure that we actually have that discussion and that there is the political will and the legal ability to enforce these protections when the FCC makes the rules.
I read somewhere that there have been 2 attempts at this that failed in the Supreme Court. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, actually, not the Supreme Court, a little bit lower, but 2 times since a Supreme Court case, they've tried to have these kinds of rules, and both times have been struck down. One time, Comcast sued and won, and the next time it was Verizon. So big telecom and cable companies who do not like these rules for kind of obvious reasons. It gives them less control. We think they're necessary to give people more control over their broadband connections, and we don't want to see a third time trying and failing in court.
Okay. Margaret Flowers from Popular Resistance this morning said that this is phase 1 of the fight to save the internet.
Right.
How are you seeing phase 2 over the next coming months?
So yeah, it'll be a pretty short but intense phase between now and when they actually vote on today's proposal. There's a lot of steps in the bureaucratic process. So today they have to vote to put the proposal out there for public comment. And then at the end of that time period, probably 3 or 4 months, same 5 commissioners will have to come back and vote on the proposal and say, we've heard the public comment, here's how we've changed our ideas, here's how they're the same, here's what we're going to do. After that, it could go back to court yet again if one of those big internet service providers tries to sue again. So there's really never an end to the process, unfortunately. It's a constant dialogue between the public and these government officials and the companies who have a stake in this too. And we think sometimes an outsized voice here at the Commission. But what we're trying to do with all of the people who have been so tremendous over the past week making their voices heard is keep those voices loud and constant and make sure people inside this building can hear them.
Okay, can you tell us about SaveTheInternet.com?
Sure, yeah, that's a website that Free Press and a lot of other groups launched almost a decade ago now. And it's just a resource at this point for materials on things that many, many different public interest groups, Popular Resistance, and Fight for the Future, and Free Press, and Demand Progress, a bunch of groups who come at this from pretty much the same standpoint, but have different voices, different strengths, different takes on the issue. We're trying to collect as many resources there as we can to tell people how they can make a difference by sending emails, by making phone calls, by coming to DC in person, by talking to your member of Congress. And there's lots of different channels just by talking about it to people that you know. So anything we can do to raise awareness of this important issue and make sure that when people are concerned, they don't just kind of hold those concerns to themselves, but they make them known and especially tell people right here in Washington about them.
Okay. And thank you to Matt Wood of Free Press.
Thank you.
Again, this is Robert Perona of DC Media Group. Thank you.
Enjoy.
I have hands-on experience with the importance of network openness. And I will not allow the national asset of an open internet to be compromised. I understand this issue in my bones. I've got scars from when my companies were denied access in the pre-internet days. The consideration that we are beginning today is not about whether the internet must be open, but about how and when we will have rules in place to ensure an open internet. My preference has been to follow the roadmap laid out by the DC Circuit in the belief that it was the fastest and best way to get protections in place. I've also indicated repeatedly that I'm open to using Title VIII. This rulemaking begins the process by putting forth the proposal, asking important and specific questions, and opening the discussion to all Americans. We look forward to the feedback on all these proposals. Now we will proceed to a vote. All those favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The order is issued. The request for editorial privileges is granted. Now, before we move on to our next item, I'd like to note that the order will be slightly different for the next two items. We'll first hear presentations from the FCC staff for the next two items, followed by statements from the bench on both items. After that, we'll proceed to individual votes on each of the two items.